sponsored by Shop G&O for the following season, everybody. Make sure you're checking out their brand new website launching on the 5th of May. If you sign up and become part of the members club, it's a £25 membership club, absolutely free, everybody. You can only get it through one Leeds. Competitive rates across the site as well. Better than Amazon, Vinted, and eBay. Make sure you check out Shop G&O. It is an e-commerce site which is tailored for all of your needs. Also, everybody, we are sponsored by Job Match Group. Talking about tailoring, make sure you check out this. It's got very specific job needs tailored to all of your every single needs. Make sure you check it out, everybody. Launching on the 6th of May. Well worth it. Finally, we're sponsored by the lads at Match Bingo. £2 per card, £5 for the price of 4. Get involved every match day, everybody. The QR code is in the corner. And let's get into the show, shall we? Well, good morning, everybody. How are you doing? Welcome back to the Rumour Mill with myself, Conor McGilligan, your host. What is going on in your world? Welcome one, welcome all. It's sunny. We always talk about the weather, and I'm kind of under it. I'll be honest, everybody. I need a break, but I'm not taking a break because it's the Rumour Mill again, even though I should be in bed with some honey, with some hot water, with some lemon. Not all separately, together would be ideal, and maybe a lemsip. But we're back here. If you didn't check out the second channel last night, it was a right laugh. Watched the Sunderland game, did a little bit of a review after it. If you guys are interested in general football scope, make sure you check that out. We're going to be doing Premier League bits, maybe even international bits, maybe even vloggy bits. Who knows? Make sure you check that out on the second channel, everybody, as well. We upload these episodes onto Spotify and Apple immediately as they're done. Make sure you're checking out One Leeds across social media as well. I will advertise bits on there that I'm not putting on the channel, just bits that are maybe coming up, etc., etc. So make sure you're checking out that as well. And also, as we always say every video, guys, make sure you do your due diligence and make sure you slap a like on the video, subscribe if you're not always, and I can see a lot of the regulars in the building. Today, we've got a few bits to talk about. It's going to be a bit of a packed show. A lot of opinion-based bits as well, as you can see in the Rumour Mill blurb there. I want you to get your thoughts in. It's not just my thoughts and my comment on Rumour. I want your comments. I want your players. I know you guys love this season. So let's get going and let's get ahead with it. Hello from Ew. Hello, mate. Morning, Connor. Hey, Mark. Stuart. Good morning, Jan. How's it going, mate? SSJW says, I've got an A level in 2.5 hours, but it appears there are more pressing matters at hand. SSJW, that'll be me as well, my friend. Morning, Connor from Villamora, celebrating my birthday today. Shout out to you, Mark. Happy birthday, my friend. Start the likes of early getting more around the block. Shout out to you, Granny. Matt's in the building. Jay's in the building. Hello, everybody. Adam, hello. Luke, Dave again. Luke, they're all here, all the regulars and the people who are just catching alive for the very first time. I'd like to say as well, congratulations to Sunderland getting to Wembley yesterday. It was a terrible football game. Commiserations to Coventry as well. But listen, it doesn't matter, does it? Sunderland are on the way to Wembley. What an absolute way of getting there. Unbelievable, as James in the building have faded away. There we go. Mark's in the building. Morning, Connor. Back from Lanzarote yesterday. Met loads of Leeds fans. Always do, mate. Always do abroad, don't you? Always do. So shout out to all of you guys as well. Okay, shall we get into the first rumour of the day? Let's do it, everybody. Shane says, finally caught a live morning from the southeast of Ireland. Shout out to you, Shane. How's it going, buddy? So let's start off with Radrizzani. Some of you care, some of you don't care, but it's always to do with Leeds United news, and I find this guy just absolutely fascinating from a human perspective. So they're in a bottom three battle at this moment in time with Cellino's Brescia. Yes, that is right. Obviously, when we all knew that Rads was leaving Leeds United, taking over Sampdoria, there was a little bit of underhand play there. It appears that apparently Sampdoria are battling with Brescia for relegation, basically, which is absolutely unbelievable. So obviously Brescia owned by Massimo Cellino, and then obviously Serie A, I should say as well, Rad's owning Sampdoria, and they're battling for it. So 16th and 17th go into a playoff, and the bottom 3 go down. So keep an eye on that one. That is just absolutely hilarious, as it's just playing out. So many stories. Apparently, Cellino's been saying some backhanded things as well about Radrizzani, and Radrizzani's not happy with Cellino. It is all going off, and it is all absolutely fantastic to watch. So if you are interested, get on that and get on the Cellino and Radrizzani battle in the Italian pyramid. It's always good to look at stuff like that. But we're not involved, of course. Matteo Joseph conducted an interview yesterday. I'll tell you what, we'll get him on the graphic here, because I think it's important to talk about Matteo and his season coming up and what we're actually going to do with him. And you guys let me know in the comment section below as well what you think we should do with him. And obviously you can tell who we're going to be speaking about as well a little bit later on down the line. Matteo, 3 goals, 3 assists in 39 appearances, goals per 90, 0.22, minutes played, just over 1,000. And it's interesting when you look at his position. We're going to get into a little bit more PSR chat a little bit later on down the line. It doesn't look like it's the healthiest when it comes to Leeds United, and we're going to be breaking down the numbers in a little bit, which I think is quite staggering, to be honest, when you look at the amount of money Leeds have spent in the time in the Premier League, which hasn't even been that long, has it, in the last 2 decades. But Matteo Joseph might be collateral, and this interview with said Arsenal YouTuber, Leeds United. Any interviews you want to give our way here at One Leeds after we've communicated with you? It'd be nice to just any Leeds interview, anyone. Not giving him to an Arsenal fan, Matteo Joseph, just an Arsenal fan. It'd be nice. Or Mark Goldbridge, a Man United fan, or just Leeds fans interviewing Leeds players. That'd be quite nice. So he did an interview with an Arsenal fan called Pinkus, I think he was called. And Joseph said that he's not had the best season on the pitch, which is obviously something that we're all aware of. I thought Matteo would be literally getting 20 goals this season. I thought when he started the pre-season, and I think he got 4 goals in 4, didn't he, up against the likes of Hamburg, etc. It was a very good caliber of pre-season as well. And he was finding the back of the net against Valencia, etc. And you actually looked at it and you thought, he's going to absolutely destroy this division. I think everybody was thinking the same as well. And people who say they weren't, I'm not sure. I'm not too sure. But it just shows how arduous the Championship can be as well. It was his first season, but he did comment on his next season, and he said, "Yeah, it wasn't my best season on the pitch, but next season will be better than this individually." So there's a few people looking at this online and saying, "What he's mentioned, next season will be better individually." What does that mean? Does that mean that he is going to be leaving the club? We know Betis have been in the wings for around about 12.5 million for him. Or does that mean that he's going to be prevalent in the Leeds starting 11? I think we're all very aware, me included, someone who's a big fan of Matteo and someone who I would want Leeds to keep hold of, whether or not it's a loan, or we've got a very, very, a very nice buyback clause on him, which the club can afford at any point, and we've got first dibs. But I don't know if Leeds would ever be in that position. We're not in the position of Man City and Liverpool right now, where we can almost do that and demand that on his career. But I do wonder what that little bit meant at the end. As I said, I was watching the interview and he did say next season will be better than this individually. So once again, we're hypothesizing, we're speculating, but I do wonder what he means. And I do wonder what the future is going to be for Matteo. What do you guys think in the comment section below? Would you get rid of him? Would you, as I say, would you get rid of him permanently? Would you get rid of him on loan? Would you accept, some, I mean, people are saying 8 to 12 million quid. I think we could get more for Matteo Joseph. What do we get for Charlie Cresswell? What, 9 and 5 million quid for him? And we're talking, 3-ish million more for Matteo Joseph. I think it's just got to be more money than that, especially for the potential of the lad. So, yeah, interesting when it comes to that. Let us know what you think in the comment section below with regards to that. Send him on loan for experience, says Luke. Loan him to a manager that will play him. I really thought he'd get 15 goals this season. So did I, mate. Get rid. Justin's never been a fan. Get rid. Take 10 million quid. I feel if we got rid of him for 10 million quid, we'd be looking 2-3 years down the line and going, wow. Like we have done with Leif Davis. Like we kind of look at him and go, wow, okay. And I remember doing the room mill back then as well. And people were like, just get rid of him. Get rid of him. Get him off the books. Not too worried if we sell him. Give matter of contract, send to loan. Yeah, 100%. NSM Production says, I think this is going to be the hardest fight Leeds have ever had. The need to stay, to add to the squad and not to be threadbare is a must. No to survival. The season coming is going to be a hard one. Yeah, I think everybody's got to be aware it's going to be a tough one. Lofts in the building. Money Connor just been giving Jim Bob some stick, asking if he was wearing the Leeds shirt for Wembley. Well, it's coming to him, mate. So he should be getting it in the post very soon. So if he's not announcing that he's got it, then we know it might be in the bin. Dan says, alone, I think there's a player in there. If we do sell, put a buyback in. Yeah, I think that's a fair point. Sell him to Rangers, 49ers own him. Yeah, I think he'll have better options. To be honest, mate. Ortega, yeah, we'll get into that in a later video, mate. I'm not 100% sure that's kind of worth talking on the rumour mill yet, but we will wait and see. Not reading too much into the individual comment. Yeah, fair enough. Need to sell for PSR. I think the PSR conversation is massive because I think he's vulnerable. I think Stroud and Nonso are vulnerable as well. So we had this guy on a little bit earlier on when it came to the player stats, and apparently Leeds are moving on with him. There's Leeds and Everton apparently in conversation with West Ham, apparently, for Vladimir Coufal. Now, we were speaking a little bit earlier on about Souček and him being the man that Leeds United are looking at in this window. Obviously, there's a few clubs looking at him as well, apparently, but Coufal is one of the players who Coufal and Souček were bought together. I think it was Slavia Prague for an outrageous combined fee of around about 6 or 7 million. Some brilliant business by West Ham. But Coufal is out of contract this summer, as is Cresswell, Aaron Cresswell. I know a lot of people have been speaking about Cresswell and Leeds potentially going in for him. I'm a little bit more, I'm not sure about Cresswell. Obviously, only played 8 times this season. I believe he's about 35 years of age as well. But Coufal, I understand a little bit more. And the reason I'm mentioning Coufal and giving a bit of reasoning behind it is because if we think about it, we've got Sam Byram as rotation. Now, I wouldn't want Vladimir Coufal as a starter at Leeds United. Now, would Coufal demand that? He's a Premier League player. He's played 20 times this season. Would he demand that? Or would he be okay with having another Premier League contract with another side and getting a competitive wage and being able to compete with someone like Jayden Bogle? I don't mind that, really. I don't mind that as a bit of competition. Now, if we're turning our noses up at Coufal, who has had 132 appearances in the Premier League, is only 32 years of age. I think he is on the decline a little bit, but I do think as depth, I don't think that's bad whatsoever. Now, this has to be, we have to have this conversation, okay? We have to have this conversation. Now, I know there's a lot of people who are talking, like Agent Ancelotti says Coufal is going to Everton to link up with Moyes. Wasn't there rumours of us loaning Cresswell last summer? There's always been rumours of Cresswell. Stig says, how old is Coufal? He's 32 years of age. I think this is kind of, when we were speaking about this on the Patreon chat the other day, this is the worry at this moment in time with Leeds United and the Premier League. And it's kind of dawning on me. I was always very well aware of it anyway, and I'm sure you guys are. But obviously, you know, one man's treasure and all that. But Coufal could come in and be a really good signing for Leeds United if we get him as depth option. You know, would he go to Everton and start? That's the conversation right now. You'd probably say yes with Ashley Young leaving. So have Leeds really got a dog in the fight when we've got, I mean, Ashley Young's not confirmed leaving, but I mean, Ashley Young's right on the downturn. He's closing on 40, isn't he? So you can kind of see the pathway there. He's worked with Moyes before. Coufal coming in would be an obvious choice for Everton. But, you know, it's a big project for him as well. Brand new stadium, Bramley Moordock, linking up with the former manager. They've finished higher than, obviously, Leeds have finished this season. You're 13th in the Premier League. It's likely for Everton. They've ended the season well. So it's not a bad project at Everton right now. And the new stadium is going to be a big sort of proposition for prospective signings. So we've got to look at that. And that's why the Ellen Road development is going to be big with Leeds United's future as well in terms of attracting new players. But this is, you're competing with the likes of Everton, which, you know, in any other regular Premier League decade, we'd be able to do. Obviously, we can't do that now. It doesn't feel anyway. But the other thing which is stark for me right now with Leeds United is Coufal. Okay? Not good enough to be offered a new contract at West Ham. But if we're talking someone like him, Vladimir, Leeds would then potentially be offering him a contract. And it kind of signified to me this morning the gap of which we're going to be operating in next season. Our teams that we're probably going to be trying to drag into this relegation battle are going to be West Ham, are going to be Wolves, are going to be Everton. And when you kind of look at the litany of quality these teams have, I mean, I was having a look the other day, and just West Ham going forward, you know, you look at Kudus and Bowen in an attacking line, you know, Somerville fully fit. There's a question mark there as if he even gets in that team, you know, if they're playing set formation. So the gap is massive. The gap is absolutely massive. And then you kind of have to guarantee that you're going to beat the two that come up with you. So this is why you kind of have to consider who you want to come up with you. Do you want Sheffield United or do you want Sunderland? I would actually argue I'd want Sheffield United because Leeds have got a really good record against Sheffield United. I believe that Sheffield United may replicate again some of what they have done before when they go up to the Premier League, when the gap's too big. Can they sort out that defensive side of their game? Are they going to be able to attract the big players that keep them in the Premier League? I'm not so sure. Sunderland go up. We've seen that they've got an excellent recruitment model under KLD. We also know that they're a much bigger club. We know that they're going to be able to, attract players as well because of the stature of the club. And we also know that, you know, Sunderland is a project, isn't it? So it might be a more attractive club. And I'd rather go and face Sheffield United in the Premier League than face Sunderland in the Premier League, to be honest with you. That's just my personal opinion. I know other people might think differently. There's also an argument that Sunderland have maybe got some Premier League ready players, whereas Sheffield United might not have that when you look at the squads, which is bizarre to think about. But when you actually look at the squads, there is some real talent in that Sunderland side. So the reason I'm bringing all this up is because you've got to guarantee wins against those two. And then you've got to pick out some others. And we were talking about this on the Patreon chat the other day. Wolves, Fulham, and that's at a stretch. Now, you beat those four home and away, which is extremely unlikely when you look at the percentages. And this isn't me being negative here, guys. It's just the reality of it. And when we're looking at Coufal and him being West Ham's effective reserve player, rotation player, and us potentially bringing him in as a starter, it signifies the gap. And I'm not saying he would start, but it'd be competition for Bogle. And if Bogle doesn't get his defensive performances sorted in the Premier League, of which he's been criticised before, Coufal would come straight in, you know? So you beat those four teams home and away. That gives you, 24 points? 24 points, beating those lot home and away. And that's if you guarantee him beating the other two teams and then Fulham and Wolves, let's say, as someone mentioned in the Patreon chat. And then you get a couple of draws. Maybe that takes you to 27, 28, 29. Maybe another win in there takes you to 32. So is that going to be enough? The gap is just huge. It's absolutely huge. And it kind of dawns on you when you're talking about players like Vladimir Coufal, how big it really is. So yeah, it's going to be an absolute uphill task. And that's why we need unbelievable recruitment, unbelievable strategy and tactics when it comes to PSR and working around that. And our players to step up. But I was watching that playoff game last night, and what I will say about it is I think, similar to Popey, I know Popey's mentioned this, I think Leeds have got 6 starters in the Premier League. I don't think Sheffield United have 6 starters in the Premier League. I don't think Burnley have 6 starters in the Premier League. And I certainly don't think Sunderland, have 6 starters in the Premier League. But, I think Sunderland have a lot of talent in that side. So, yeah, it's going to be interesting to see how deep this goes, really. Going to be a strange season, says Dave Dids. A draw felt like a loss last season will feel like a win, 100%, mate, 100%. Coufal will be a good option for the Championship in a year's time. Wolves aren't good. Wolves aren't good chances, are they? Lose, Kuhn, mate. You need to involve some commas in the right spaces there. We could beat West Ham and Palace and Fulham, plus the other 2 promoted side. We could do, mate, and I completely agree with that. I'm on board with that. I just think the gap is a lot bigger than people think. Do you know what I mean? It's absolutely huge. So recruitment's going to be absolutely key for Leeds United, of course. But the thing is with Coufal is him coming in is an upgrade on Sam Byram, isn't it? That's how we've got to look at it. Now, the next man who we're going to be speaking about today is Nicholas Kuhn. Now, the reason we're speaking about him is because he's been rumoured to Leeds United this morning. And quite interestingly, the other Celtic man is really being linked to Leeds United in Maida. This isn't going away with Maida, but interesting when you're looking at his Champions League performances here of Kuhn. Now, this has been effectively written off by a lot of publications, and the discussion is that Celtic will not let him go whatsoever. The right winger, he's an excellent footballer, a technician, someone who can strike the ball exceptionally well, someone who, in my opinion, could make that transition. But there is really no point in talking about him, in my opinion, because I don't think Celtic are going to let him go for sort of any fee. He's very happy up there as well, according to many reports. But yeah, the number 10 will be a nice little addition at Ellen Road. Whether or not it's rotation, whether or not it's I'm actually getting on board and starting in the Premier League. But can he make that transition? That's always the conversation with SPL and Premier League players. Can you make that jump? It's absolutely massive. It's so big. Ellen Road needs to become a fortress and beat the bigger teams. Noxon says it's all about the start. Start strong. Get some points under our belt with us. Start badly and we sink. I agree with that. Jay says Bogle, Strout, Rowan, Tanaka, and onto Ramazani are the ones to start. Championship says Mike, teams up their game when they played us. I'm sorry to say it'll be the case of teams playing up in the Prem. We are box office. It won't be easy. I think the big thing as well is, when you kind of looking at the Premier League, really, we're not going to be winning games in the last minute anymore. That's not going to happen because we're not going to have the quality to be able to do that, because our quality is going to be like below average poor in the Premier League when it comes to standard, really. Hayden says, do you think summer signings were made early this summer, or do you think the 49ers will leave it late? Well, they've said it's going to be early. These two Celtic players wouldn't last in the Premier League. I think any SPL player is tempted by the chance to play in the Premier League. I know we're in a high position back then, but we've got Viduka and Keane from Celtic 100%. And obviously, this is the guy who is continuously linked, and apparently 25 million gets him out of Celtic, according to reports this morning. We spoke about him the other day, and it is Maeda. Now, this guy, everybody loves him. Everybody loves him. They think, now, it feels like a very Brighton-esque signing, Maeda, but 4 goals, 1 assist in the Champions League in 9 appearances, and he's absolutely decimated SPL in terms of effectiveness and goals as well. I think he's got 17 goals this season. We spoke about it the other day. But he is someone who many people are tipping to come to the Premier League at some point. And apparently Celtic are willing to part ways for 25 million quid. And that's the rumour coming from Scotland. So, yeah, Maeda, Cunha, I don't know. Who knows? Who knows how this is going to work out? But it's going to be interesting to see how that one develops. Okay, we spoke about this guy the other day as well, so it's not exactly a brand new conversation here, but this is... No, it's not that McAtee. It's not John McAtee. It is your man, James McAtee. Now, the reason I wanted to speak about McAtee this morning is because obviously there's been a lot of discussion about him potentially fitting into the cam spot at Leeds United, and him being part of that, and Leeds apparently sending off proposals to Manchester City for a £25 million signing. The big issue is there is a big shark in the ocean, and that shark is Tottenham Hotspur. Now, Spurs in that position effectively have options. Kulusevski can play in there. We know James Maddison plays in there as well. Son can even play in there. But apparently James McAtee is on the target list. But there are now, according to reports, around about 10 clubs looking at McAtee. And that list is growing, with Leverkusen coming to the party as well. So I think we can cross this off our list. We can cross him off our list. I just don't see this happening. Don't see this happening whatsoever. AJ's in the building. Burkhart from Mainz. Who remembers about 4 years ago on the Room Mill when we were talking about Burkhart? Who remembers that? Is there any OGs in the building? There might be, there might not be. JC says Maeda and Tanaka link up will look fire in the Premier. Just can't see us getting Maeda. It's definitely there, Jay. It's definitely there that we could get him 100%. It's just whether or not we have to have a conversation about PSR. We have to have a conversation about PSR, and we're constantly having it every day on the Room Mill. And that is what we're going to do. We never did it before, but we're going to have to remind people every single time, and remind myself as well, that this PSR is a massive part of the conversation going forward when it comes to Leeds United and bringing signings in, because we just simply can't do it without having this conversation. We can't be spending 25 million without any sort of repercussions, if you look at it that way. Amiri from Mainz. Buonanotte from Brighton for Cam. Do you know who I would be looking at? This is who I would be looking at. If we're talking about a Cam, this is who I would be talking about. El Khannouss. This guy Look, I know his numbers aren't amazing. I think he's an absolute baller, El Khannouss. I think he's so good. I absolutely love him in just that little pocket. I think he's very, very technical. I think he's been surrounded by a dud squad with no development this season, and I think he's been an absolute shining star. If I'm Leeds, I'm going and getting him. Honestly, I think he's outrageously good. Might be able to get him for a decent price, but we're going to get on to the strategy, the PSR strategy that has been spoken about Leeds working with this season, and something which I think would get rid of someone like El Khannouss, and that's why you have to find diamonds in the rough from the continent, which is obviously what Leicester have done here. I think he's a fantastic player, a really good player. Look, the numbers don't represent it. You're all going to be saying to me, look, Connor, how can you say that with that? But I think there's a lot of context with this player. You surround him with our attacking quartet. I think he's a really good player, really, really nice player. You thought Joe Melier and Joseph were ballers, but you're just absolutely waffling there, mate, aren't you? Did you just think you'd just chuck Melier in to just stab the knife in? You're clearly a new maybe watcher of the channel, because that's absolute rubbish. Burkhart, that's a blast from the rumour mill. Good lad, Jay. Good lad. Spoke about him ages ago, mate. Ages ago. You heard of a player called Mark Rocker Connor? Have I, pal? Have I? Mason Clark looked decent last night, 100%. Noxon says, Celtic going to be difficult given the range of stuff, Connor. You'd hope not, Noxon. A price is a price, mate, at the end of the day. Khannouss or McAtee? Listen, I'm going Khannouss. I really, really like Khannouss. Look, if you're offering me Khannouss or McAtee in terms of just a player, obviously, I'd take McAtee, obviously, but I'm talking about realism. I think McAtee is just out of the realms of possibility, to be honest with you. But massive fan. And this is, when people are talking, when people are talking about Fulham, Jace is bang on the money here, and we're talking about Wolves, and we're talking about this, that, and the other. Emile Smith-Rowe doesn't start for Fulham. Does he start for Leeds United? Of course he does. Every day and twice on a Sunday. And this is the gap that we're going to have to make up. This is the gap. Carl says, I've seen El Khannouss linked with Arsenal, but they don't play the traditional 10, so who knows? That's true. That's true. I mean, yeah, Odegaard's more of an advanced state, isn't he? Paul says, Connor, why don't you get the recruitment job at Leeds Championship then this season? Paul, we're in the Premier League, my friend. But yeah, we'll get on to the next player, of course. Let's get on to the next one. Okay. Now, once again, we've spoken about this guy multiple times, but now there is a price that has been released this morning. Sean Longstaff, Newcastle, willing to let him go. Obviously, the midfield composition, they want to be getting more dynamism in that midfield, a little bit more quality, probably is the right word, not dynamism, quality in that midfield. And Newcastle, with obviously them trying to sustain Champions League spot, effectively become part of the big four, not just the big six. And apparently, they are looking, according to Team Talk, for a £12 million fee for Longstaff. Once again, we have to take our heads out of, because we've been in the Championship for so long now, but we have to take our heads outside of this, in my opinion. The Premier, like Longstaff's rubbish for Man United, or Longstaff's rubbish for whoever, Newcastle, Spurs, whatever. Where Leeds United and where in the Premier League. I completely understand that you don't want to be getting players on big contracts for long periods of time if you are Leeds, and you can't get rid of these players. I think Longstaff comprises athleticism, physicality, and a runner in the midfield. And a lot of people, I've mentioned this several times, if you are new to the room, welcome on. Make sure you subscribe and like in the video. But I've always said that in the Premier League, you need not only speed, power, but you also need runners in that midfield. You can have technical ability, but your likes of Gruev get gobbled up. So this is what I'm talking about in terms of improvement. If you're able to get Sean Longstaff as a replacement for a Gruev, that is an upgrade. If you're to get a Coufal as an upgrade to Sam Byram, that is good. That's squad depth. You are building for the Premier League there. It doesn't always have to be automatic starters. But Longstaff will see himself as a starter. He'll want to come in at Leeds United. It's close to home. He'll want to come in at Leeds United as a starter. So then there's a conversation about maybe him and Ampadu. I'll be looking at Ampadu, of course, but Longstaff is potentially that athleticism that you need, that running ability that you need for 12 million quid. 12 million quid as well. Ola Aina is a free agent, good player for the price. I think Longstaff will be a good signing, says Clark. However, I wouldn't be overpaying for him. I'd sign Harvey Barnes. Yeah. Sorry, mate. I thought you'd been genuine there. I was about to give you some logic. Jay says, I would snap up Longstaff in a heartbeat. Would be quality for us. Newcastle want to sell for PSR. So if it's just 12 million, I'd get it done. Do you know what he gives me? He's always given me, Longstaff and McTominay have always given me a very similar vibe. Definitely can play box to box. Longstaff can definitely be of that role as well. And I just think in the right system, I don't know if it would be our system, to be honest with you, but he would, there is potential for him to really succeed at a club. I genuinely believe that. And obviously you've seen that with McTominay and Napoli, a little bit different, but I genuinely think in the right setting, I think Longstaff would be a decent signing. Whether or not that's rotation, but for 12 million quid, can you really turn your nose up at that? Oh, good minds there, Jace. Good minds, mate. This morning, guys. Hey, hello. How's it going? Leeds trying to weaken Celtic for Rangers. Yeah, exactly. But yeah, it's an interesting one. So I wanted to speak about this guy as well, just as we just quickly move on, because I know you guys are wanting to get to the next rumor. So this guy's this. I don't think this is going to cause a bit of controversy in the chat. No, just no. Just no. Not for me. No. Do we have to go into this? I guess we're gonna have to, aren't we? We're going into every other player. 38 years of age, 8 goals this season, 4 assists, and you'll say, Connor, what were you saying about Khannouss, who's pretty much got 2 goals and 3 assists this season? Projection, potential, trajectory, ability. I look, Vardy, probably even 3 or 4 years ago, I'd be taking him at Leeds. Of course you would. Vardy's not going to come in as depth. Vardy's going to be wanting to play as your leading number 9, which is what he'd have to be with Peru in as depth. Just no, not for me. Very different. Obviously, plays on the line on the last line of defense, which is what I've been screaming for ages when it comes to Peru, because he doesn't do that. It's just not his game. Vardy is that. He plays in behind that centre-back, always looking for the ball in behind and looking to pounce that way. I've noticed with Vardy, though, there's been a slowing. And even in the Championship last season, there has been a slowing of Jamie Vardy. This season as well, he's just not as sprightly. He's just not as on it, in my opinion, when it comes to just that ball in and around the back. But in the Carabao Cup, he's not scored this season. I don't think he's played. FA Cup, he's got himself a goal. The Premier League, he's done okay, as you see there, and he's probably been one of Leicester's shining stars, really, but not for me. And there might be a lot of discourse here. No, says Sarah, rather 100%. You'd rather have Beto, 100%. Beto is. I think he's such a good option if we can get him for the right price. If you can get him for 10 to 15 million quid, do not turn your nose up at Beto. Seriously, do not. He would facilitate how Leeds play. But yeah, I completely agree. Morning, Con. Ryan, no to Vardy from me. Yes to Pope. Vardy, no. Calimuendo is a very, at some point, I need to get Connor 6 picks out, and he's very close to being on it, mate, to be honest. Connor, I'm a fan of Wilson Isidore, but I was not impressed with him last night. I agree, Dan, 100%. Morning from sunny Plymouth. Hey, Lappers. Beto, I'm on board with. Beto, lousy first touch. Okay. That's so Beto. Bearing in mind, he's in a front line of Jack Harrison and Decore. Let's just have a quick look at his transfer market, because I'm not just going to get his stats up here, because it'll just give me a full picture. So Beto, this is kind of how I'm looking at it now, as he's going to the end of the season, because he's in form as well. I believe he has got, let's have a look, Beto. So he's got 2 goals in his last couple of games, 8 goals all season, similar to Vardy, isn't it? I just think, guys, to be honest with you, it facilitates how we play a lot more with Beto. I think it facilitates it a lot more. I think, look, we've explained this before. He's a big lad. He would be really good with our diminutive technical players in and around him. You need a physical presence up front in the Premier League. You just simply have to have it, in my opinion, anyway, unless you've got an absolute speed merchant up top as well. But Beto, I think, complemented by Peru, would do okay. I'm not saying it'd be the number one option, but for a decent price, I think it'd be decent. I think it'd be well worth it. Beto's quick as well. Yeah, there's a lot of discourse around Beto. I just think we maybe think we are going to get a lot better players than we will get. We've got to bear in mind we are working within the constraints of being a newly promoted side in the Premier League. There is a certain level of attractiveness with that. We're all very aware of that. But I also think when it comes to Leeds and strikers, you've got to go and be quite realistic as well. There's people in the chat with the greatest respect the other day saying to me, well, there's a Red Bull link there, Connor. Why don't we go get Sesko? Do you know what I mean? And there's Burkhart. I've mentioned him several times, multiple times on the channel. And there is profiles of players that I will be releasing on the channel when it comes to my picks. But what I will say is that a lot of them follow the mold of Beto. So I just think an aerial presence like someone like him up front, up top, it gives Leeds such an outlet. It gives Leeds such an outball of which we can get up the pitch 5-10 yards higher. He's got experience in the Premier League as well, which is quite rare to find for a decent price. 27 years of age. I don't think it's that bad. I really don't. Udinese was decent as well. So is Verba still wanting out? He is indeed. But yeah, it kind of looks like a lot of people. Beto scored 8 goals in half season. He has indeed, mate. I think he got one against Liverpool as well, didn't he? So it's been discussed as well that this man, apparently, according to several reports in Spain, it appears that he is now negotiating, or there's been conversations about him negotiating with Real Betis, and it feels like this is getting closer and closer and closer when it comes to Firpo now. He's basically done a bit of a goodbye tour, in my opinion. He was brilliant on the parade. He's been speaking on social media about how much he loves the club. This guy's going, everyone. There's no way he's sticking around. Absolutely no way he's sticking around. I've mentioned this several times as well. I don't mind it. Good luck to him. And I think it's the right move. Firpo moving on. I wouldn't want him as depth even. I wouldn't want us to get to a point of which our starting left back is out. And then we're looking at Junior Firpo to come in for 5 or 6 games. I mentioned this before. The caliber of teams that we're going to be coming up against, I think, are going to really, really hurt Junior Firpo in the Premier League. I think he's improved. But I also think I was on this chat with Gabe yesterday. You got Dan James, Junior Firpo. Who else has improved? Dan James and Firpo are probably the obvious ones in the Championship because they've gone to such a different level at the Championship. There is a very fine line between have they improved or is it just because they're the Championship and the Championship's a much poorer standard? I'm going to be so interested to see if we do keep hold of Junior and Dan in the Premier League. Dan's never been a success in the Premier League. And Junior, we know, hasn't been a success in the Premier League with the 2 seasons he had with us. So have they developed as players, or have they just had both of them excellent Championship seasons with a much lower standard? You know, we know the caliber of the Championship this season as well has been worse than last season. And those players have been much better this season than last season as well. So it's an interesting conversation, but I don't think we can overlook that. I don't think we can overlook the fact that the gap between the Championship and the Premier League, when you look at Junior Firpo, the whole problem with him in the Premier League for me was positional awareness, tackling, 1v1. So have they improved? Well, he's not been tested enough for me in the Championship by out-and-out wingers. He hasn't. He's not been tested enough. So this is my worry when it comes to him. If he was to come in for 6 games, got starting left backs injured, Hugo Bueno, whoever it may be, I would be worried. I really would be worried. Championship comes in 6 games, easy, brilliant. He'll probably get you about 12 assists in those games. I would worry about the Premier League, 100%. And that's once again where you kind of got strip sentiment back as well, because someone said to me the other day as well, we're speaking about Manuel Solomon. I think someone said it on the Patreon. They said, Connor, why wouldn't you want Manuel Solomon? He's a proven Premier League winger. I said, no, he's not. And at that time, we were speaking about Christos Solis, who was at a poor time at Norwich at 18 years of age. Then he left, went on, has done brilliant at Dusseldorf, absolutely exceptionally well at Club Bruges. Should be an option for Leeds, in my opinion, with how excellent he's been. Christoph Zolis got 4 goals for Norwich. Solomon's scored 4 goals in the Premier League. So there's not proof there. They've just been excellent in the Championship. And 100%, look, we're looking at them and we're like, yeah, they will be able to make the step up, but we don't know. We do not know. And that goes from Solomon to James to Firpo. So I think you've got to do a bit of risk management here. And you've got to look at it and you've got to think, nah, not for me there. Not for me. Not for maybe 3 or 4 games. 3 or 4 games for Leeds in the Premier League is going to be huge. We have to, every single game has to be a cup final. It's a cliche, but it's true. Every single game has to be a cup final. So we've got to be careful, I think. We've got to be really, really careful. Let's have a look what you guys are saying. Connor, what do you think about Raum for left back? Yes, mate. The German, yeah, I mean, the thing is, I think at the Euros, he's absolutely unbelievable, hasn't he? But I've not really kept track of him since then. Leeds need to target players who can score at set pieces. We are so poor. And do you know what, mate? That's a really good point, Lee, because I was doing a bit of stat crunching, number crunching, not long ago. 3 of the bottom 5 Premier League sides were the newly promoted sides when it came to scoring from set pieces. That's an abomination. That is an absolute abomination. If you come into the Premier League and you're in the bottom 5 for set pieces, you're not giving yourself any marginal chance there whatsoever. You're basically relying on open play to score your goals in the Premier League, which is ridiculous. Let's have a look. Dance Vardy. Yeah, people not happy with Vardy, which is fine. I don't think we'll go for him anyway. Timo Werner. Sarah says Luke Ayling and Berardi. You know what Jamie Vardy. Jordan says, what about Sesko from Leipzig? This is what Jordan, mate. Jordan, come on, mate. This is what I mean, pal. See, I wasn't joking. People were asking me about Sesko. This is the other day, mate. There's no way, pal. There's no way. He's looking right at the very top, Sesko. His wages will be outrageous. Just because we're with RB on a commercial level, there's no chance, pal. No chance. Good morning, Connor. Hey, Marcus. Catching you for live. It's just a question. Are we able to trade with Rangers? Example, could we sell academy players for higher value to help with PSR? That is a strategy that we could utilize. 100%, mate. Yeah, 100%. Everything you've said about Bogle could be applied to other way around. Everyone who could be applied to Firpo could be applied to Bogle, 100%. That's why you need depth there. You need competition, 100%. I agree with that. Okay, let's get on to the next thing. So there was a report from the YEP yesterday about a hybrid transfer policy. And I was doing a bit of depth into this article. I think it was by the YEP. And it was really interesting when we're talking about the hybrid. And the reason it was is because you kind of look at how Leeds will go about this season, right? How are Leeds going to go about this season? Are we going to bring in Premier League players? Are we going to bring in players from the continent? Now, the player from the continent is quite interesting, actually, because I've mentioned this before when I've been talking about Loriente, when I've been speaking about Christoph Zolis, when I was speaking about Keito Nakamura the other day. If you guys haven't checked my alternatives to Manuel Solomon video, you should check it out after this. Honestly, it's well worth it. Now, we're speaking about these players, and these are players on the continent with very, very similar attributes. The big correlation with all of them is they've all played at the top level. This is something for me that has to be part of their artillery when we're looking at them. They have to have played at the top level. Have to. Or have been just outstanding at a second-tier level. Outrageous, which you could apply at Loriente this season for Sassuolo. But the hybrid transfer policy is interesting because it encompasses Premier League signings, domestic signings, and players from the continent. Leicester, Ipswich, Southampton spent 120 million quid on Premier League players. 120 million on Premier League players. Oliver Skipp and Ramsdale been the key examples there. Let me say that again. Oliver Skipp and Aaron Ramsdale there. Now, I am absolutely certain Aaron Ramsdale will be pushing for a move to Leeds. I'm certain of it. Just avoid that. Avoid that. And I know a lot of people disagree with me there. There are better keepers on the continent that you can go and get. Much better keepers on the continent that have overperformed. I mentioned one the other day who would be my pick at Getafe. But Leeds are going to basically learn from what they've done before. And you look at a lot of the products that we brought in from the continent once again, or the continents, Nonso, Rutter, Rafinha, Tanaka, some of our best players in recent history. But apparently Leeds are going to try to strike a balance this season between domestic players and players of the, abroad, which I think is a really good model. Leeds have got to learn from these clubs. This is what we've got to do. when you look at these teams that are coming down, someone said to me the other day, well, it was a TikTok I did actually. It was a TikTok actually, and the reason I did it was because this guy had said, well, Leeds are going to come up. Southampton guy, Leeds are going to come up, have 200 million quid, and then they're going to go straight back down because they've still got Daniel Farke or whatever. And I said to him, but there are so many mistakes that you made when it comes to Jason Wilcox being nabbed from you from Manchester United, from some of the signings that you made in the summer. Cameron Archer brought in for a hefty fee from Aston Villa. You look at that fee, the amount of players that you can get for that fee on the continent, or 5-6 million quid less for, and we'll give you 5-6 million or 10 million more worth in value when it comes to stats, is incredible. And you've got to be so careful when you're going for these players. Players like Oliver Skipp and Ramsdale, you cannot be going out and spending big money on players like this. And it comes at a premium at this level. It comes at a premium. And we have got to learn from these clubs. We have to learn from these clubs what they've done. Now, we've mentioned a player already at Leicester in Khannouss, Khannouss, who was an exceptional signing for them. Obviously not a domestic signing, but a domestic signing which kind of did work for Leicester for a period was Buonanotte at Brighton. But it's a loan signing. It's smart. That makes sense. You're not going out and absolutely shelling whatever Southampton did on Cameron Archer. Was it 20-25 million quid? We've got to be smarter. We have to be smarter. So that's kind of where I'm looking at with it. And it was good to hear the YEP saying that we've got a hybrid transfer strategy, and that's what we're going to be looking at for that one, which kind of makes me feel a little bit more worth it, to be honest with you. Okay, let's have a look at some of your comments before we do log off. Get Nick Pope, Schmodix. No, don't go anywhere near Schmodix. Don't go anywhere near him. Marcus says, Sesko's a CL player. No matter how big we are, we can't. No, we can't, mate. We can't. Pascal to Rangers for 40 million to help out PSR so we can buy Sesko CD. Yeah, exactly. The PSR thing's absolutely massive when it comes to moving on some of our products right now. Do you think Nick Pope can do a job for us? 100%, mate. 100%. PLZ works as Conor Manos Solomon showed he can play for Fulham when he was healthy. He was dangerous versus the... But PLZ, this is what I'm talking about. If you're spending 20 million quid on him, which is what Spurs apparently want, I'd be going back for him on loan. I mentioned this yesterday, but it's 4 goals. And for Fulham, it was 4 goals in 19 appearances. It's not proof. It's not evidence. No matter the feelings we all have to Manos Solomon, it's not proof. It's not evidence. It's not sustained Premier League proof that you can do it. Do you know what I mean? The thing is with what you've got is Solomon, is he's played in the Champions League before and he was one of Shakhtar's best players. We know there's a hell of a lot of ability there, but it does depend on price because there isn't that much evidence there to suggest that he's a guaranteed, bagsman in the Premier League or someone who's going to prove it in the Premier League. And the big thing in the Premier League is pace, isn't it? It's pace. And Solomon has agility. I wouldn't say he's got out-and-out pace, explosive pace, which I think you need. How much would you pay for Solomon? I wouldn't be going over... probably lower than 15, mate, to be honest. Lower than 15. Melee and Joseph should try fetch a combined fee for around 18 million. Surely sell them for PSR. You do indeed, Kershaw. I think you bang on the money. Guys, what we'll do, this has been the longest one. It wasn't meant to be the longest one, but we've kind of rambled on. I'll put chapters if you have just joined. I'll put chapters if you want to skip to a certain section on this. What I will then do is upload this, of course, to Spotify, to Apple, if you want to check it out, everybody. I'm going to go to bed. I'm dying. Do me a favor, please, like the video. Really would appreciate that. Thank you so much for all of your support. Check on out the second channel as well, of which we've been uploading over the last couple of days as well, and we will be doing more consistently, of course, over the summer and into the Premier League. Make sure you do that. Really appreciate your ongoing support, everybody, and I will see you tomorrow morning at the exact same time. Tomorrow we do also have the battle lines on the evening at around about 8 p.m. Guys, it's been an absolute pleasure. See you in a bit. Cheers.